everyone. Namaste. I'm Jill Loftus of Nuit Astrology, and I'd like to film something a little bit different today. And it is an episode I'm going to call Crazy Spiritual Experiences That I've Had. And I'm sharing this maybe for a couple different reasons. One, I think sometimes we need to normalize these kind of intense, esoteric or spiritual experiences that we have, because a lot of times it's kind of like when a small child gets a feeling or has an intuition and the adults are like, oh, don't worry about that, or don't think about that, or that didn't really happen. I think we can sometimes discount our own spiritual growth and cosmic experiences. And I say this not only because I've done that, but also because as a spiritual counselor, yoga teacher, astrologer, I've had so many people come to me about things that other people would think are crazy. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, I don't want to talk about this because it sounds crazy. And it's not crazy. There are other realms, all right? There are spirits. There are people that have trouble leaving this place and their souls get stuck. There are angels and guides on the other side that are here to help us, and some people can see them. Those things are normal. Those things are real. And so I thought maybe by sharing a couple of my kind of crazy experiences, I don't know, we could at least start the conversation. So the first one I have to probably discuss is long before my spiritual growth or being set on this path, although I guess all of your life is spiritual growth if you look at it properly, right? But before I was really exposed to any of these teachings, I was a very young woman of 19, working in a large city. And I was, walking down the street one day, very preoccupied, I'm sure, with the 7 million things that were happening to me, especially being so young and working in an office. Lots of pressures, lots going on. And there was just a big crowd of people. And I was walking along. I may have even had my, headphones on. They were, I forget what they were called back then, but you had a cassette player with headphones. And I might have had them on. I don't even remember. Really, this was a really long time ago. 19. That was a long time ago. So I'm walking along, and I'm kind of lost in thought, and I go to step off the sidewalk, and in an instant, I feel someone grab both of my shoulders, lift me up, pull me back, and as that happens in a split second, this giant Port Authority bus just goes flying past me. I had almost stepped directly out in front of a bus. I mean, I could just feel that thing going past me, the speed of it. And I was just kind of stunned. And nobody says anything, nothing happens. And I turn around and I look up, and standing behind me is the tallest dark-skinned black man, just very dark skin, very tall. He's just kind of looking straight ahead, but he is clearly the person who has picked me up and pulled me back. And I say, thank you. And he nods. That's all he does. Doesn't say a word, nods. And so, the light changes. We all get to walking, and we walk across the street. And it's not until I get across the street and a couple steps into the next block that I'm like, oh my God, that guy saved my life. What just happened? And so I'm like, I need to thank him more. I need to say something more. He just saved my life. And I stop and I turn back, and he is gone. He is nowhere to be found. He is not there. Nobody else sees anything. It's almost like a dream, right? I honestly believe that an angel saved me that day. Honestly, I had things to do, babies to create, yoga studios to open. So kind of a crazy spiritual experience. Another one that I have told my students of often, and I wrote a blog about this way back when I was blogging for Uttar Yoga Studio, was about men with canes. I kept seeing men with canes, and I look for symbols. I remember seeing three red cars, and thinking, I need to slow down. I remember once driving, and right as I looked down at my odometer, it flipped to 666, which I know that is supposed to be the number of the devil or whatever. 6 is also my lucky number. And so I watched it flip over, and I thought, oh, I should slow down. And I pressed on the brake, and no kidding, a deer ran right across in front of me. If I hadn't braked, I more than likely would have hit it. So anyways, I was seeing men with canes, not just occasionally. And in fact, one day I was dropping my kids off at preschool. I'm driving down the road. Doesn't this man with the cane just step off into the road and make me come to a complete stop while he crosses the road? I'm like, all right, I guess this means slow down. Or am I using something as a crutch? I mean, what is this? So I had not, it was when I had first opened my yoga studio, and the first location was at the top of a very, very tall set of steps. The buildings had 20-foot ceilings, I think 20 foot. 20 foot, yeah, 20-foot ceilings. They're very tall ceilings, so very steep steps. And as I'm kind of ushering everybody in, this is a kind of a strong vinyasa class, a flow class, so very vigorous class, not a beginner's class. I hear someone like stomping up the steps. Okay, whatever. And then don't you know, into the yoga studio walks one of the men with the canes that I've seen. And he is very obviously limping. He's like wearing like a button-down shirt and like khaki pants. He's not dressed for yoga. And he starts walking around and kind of like asking what do you do here? And I was like, oh my goodness, how am I going to teach yoga to this guy? What am I going to do? Got all these spandex-clad bendy people in here ready for a big-ass yoga class, and like, what am I going to do with this guy? And this was very early in my teaching, so things like this, threw me for a loop. Not much does it anymore, but that threw me for a loop. And so then I was just like, yeah, we do yoga here, offer classes. And then he says to me, have you ever read the Gita? And I was like, yes. And then he turns around and he pokes his cane at me and says, sum up the Gita in one sentence. And I'm like, this is the battlefield. And he pauses and he goes, yes. And then he leaves. He leaves. Back down the steps. And of course, it is time to start my yoga class. And I go in and teach my yoga class. But like, how crazy is that, right? And I've given it so much thought. And I really do think maybe my crutch was that I taught very strong, powerful asana-based classes versus, paying a lot of attention to the philosophy and things like that. I mean, yeah, I'd read the Gita, but it didn't really land with me. I probably had to read the Gita 3 times before I was like, oh, wow, the Gita, man. So that's kind of an interesting spiritual experience there. And I'll close this episode, and I'll tell you more because I've got so many of them, but I'll close this one with probably the most powerful one that I have experienced of all my, well, no, not the most powerful, but one of the most powerful spiritual experiences I have ever had. And so it starts with me being on a meditation, with a retreat with my teacher. And so we would go on these retreats for 3 or 4 days, immerse in the studies. It was incredible. I loved every minute of it. Got to be away from the children and the family and the responsibilities and really just immerse in the spiritual practices. And so in Kriya Yoga, we have this practice with our Ishta Devata, our chosen form of the divine. And if you want to read more on that or listen more on that, I've got a video on that. So we have this ideal. We each have our own individual. You have yours and I have mine. And so we are doing this ritual in our meditation where our Ishta gives us something that we need. And so I'm sitting there in meditation and I'm waiting for my Ishta to give me that thing that I need. And of course, because I think I know everything, the mind, right? It's like, ooh, it's going to be a heart. Ooh, you're going to give love. Ooh, it's going to be this. It's going to be that. And my Ishta pulls out a knife. A big knife, like a big knife, and hands me this big knife. And I'm like, this doesn't seem very spiritual to me to get a big ass knife. What am I supposed to do with this knife? And so I discuss it with, some people. I'm like, oh, everyone's like, yeah, I received this and I received that. And I'm like, yeah, I got this knife. Well, people suggested maybe it means I have to sever things. Maybe it means I need to end something, whatever. So I go on through my living life. And literally, this is at least a year later, maybe more. I am meeting a new breathwork practitioner who had just moved to town. And I had never had a session with her before. I had heard wonderful things about her breath work, and I knew that she also had some students who were active in Korea. So I thought it would be a good fit to go for a breathwork session. So I went for the breathwork session, which was profound and beautiful. During the breathwork session, and this is Barrett Breathworks, Kathleen Barrett's an incredible teacher. I apprenticed with her. Highly recommend her information. Check her out, Barrett Breathwork Institute. But anyway, so during the breathwork session, you don't say anything. You're reclining on this table, and the practitioner is guiding you through these different breathing practices. And, you're having your own experience. And so there's no conversation or discussion for this hour and 20, however long it is, until after. And so I get up from the session. I'm sitting on the edge of the table. She comes in with some water, and she sits down and says to me, "Who put the sword in your aura?" And I was like, "What?" And she says, "There's a sword in your aura. Who put it there?" Now, I had not told her about this meditation with my Ishtativata. There was no way that she knew that. And this is something that really showed to me that when you have a meditative experience, when you have an astral experience, a dream experience, it is legitimate. It is actually occurring. When you visualize cutting a cord with someone, that actually does something, right? Something that occurs in the astral can influence the physical and be visible to some people. And she told me that sword was the sword of truth. And very interesting, got some wild stories of things that happened after that, where I really did have to decide what my truth was and sever some relationships based upon that truth. So anyways, those are three that come to mind immediately. I'll be filming some more of these. I would love to hear from you some of your esoteric or spiritual experiences, things that made you realize that there are universal forces out there. There are cosmic forces out there. I don't know. I'd love to hear your experiences, and I'd love your feedback on mine. See how that resonates. If you enjoyed this, please share it with a friend. Please like, please subscribe. Hop on my website, sign up for my newsletter. I have memberships available as well, so I can offer you more content. Have a wonderful day. Namaste. Bye.